Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Joe Tossi from TechTables.com, and you're listening to the Public Sector Show by TechTables. This podcast features human-centric stories from public sector CIOs, CISOs, and technology leaders across federal, state, city, county, and higher education. You'll gain valuable insights into current issues and challenges faced by top leaders. Through interviews, speaking engagements, live podcast tour events, we offer you a behind-the-mic look at the opportunities top leaders are seeing today. And to make sure you never miss an episode, head over to Spotify and Apple Podcasts and hit that follow button and leave a quick rating. Just tap the number of stars that you think this show deserves. Welcome to the Public Sector Show by TechTables. Super excited to have you all on here. Let's kick off for those who don't know you. Stephanie, we'll start with you and we'll go on the way down. Just a quick intro about yourself.
Stephanie Weber, I'm an industry leader for Appian. I've been serving state and local government since 2002, so pretty much my whole career.
I'm Selissen, Chief Information Officer for TxDOT, and been a public servant most of my career, 25 plus years. I've been at TxDOT for 6 years and love it, and it's one of the best DOTs in the nation.
Hi, I'm Tanya Acevedo. I'm the Chief Information Officer for CapMetro, and that serves the central Austin, Texas area. And I have about 30 some years of combined private and public sector experience.
Hello, my name is Kerrica. Laake. I'm the Chief Information Officer at the City of Austin. I've been with the city for 33 years. Love public service, love what we can do for our community.
Love that, love that. Kerrica, so let's kick off with you. So I like this. So 33 years. So you had mentioned from intern to CIO is pretty remarkable. How have you fostered that culture that embraces curiosity, innovation, and process improvement from interns all the way up to executive team members?
I think it's that why question and communication, right? Everything starts with communication. We're not talking to each other. If we're not asking each other questions, we're not learning. If we don't understand what we need in our community from our community members, if we don't understand what our business areas need, then we're unable to provide the right service. So really, it's the focus on the user experience, right? You need to know what is the business problem we're trying to solve, and we want people throughout the organization asking those kinds of questions. And especially, we have a business relationship management program at the City of Austin where we pair our IT BRMs, we call them, with executives around the city so that we can understand what their real business problems are. Let's not talk about technology. Tell us what you're trying to achieve, and we can work together on the technology that helps support that.
Okay, I love that. Is there a formal process that you have to document those learnings, take those away?
There are. So our business relationship managers work with the different departments. They do intake on different requests that they may have. They help them develop roadmaps. It's a fairly new program. We're trying to cover the whole city, and we're getting there. We're getting better. We're adding more departments every quarter. But what I've seen so far, I'm happy with that. We also see trends. We see the things that the different departments want to do, and we're able to focus that in on, okay, we really need to be focused on that as a city instead of an individual department.
Yeah, that's great. So Tanya, off camera, we were just talking about, and even when we met, about the economic challenges in public sector right now. Very curious, how are you keeping those team members engaged as you're thinking about service delivery?
So at CapMetro, we're driven by sales taxes in the Austin area. And about a year and a half ago, we started seeing the decline. And so we've been very transparent. Our CEO, CFO have been very transparent to all of the employees and business partners in our organization. And so with that, we're internally in our department are transparent. We're saying, okay, this is starting to happen. And the first thing that starts happening is that we need to be very efficient. And unfortunately, sometimes efficiencies means that we need to start cutting back. And cutting back is on things like professional services and extended staffing. And with that, it is asking internal employees to do more with less. And how are we doing more with less? We have to work smarter. And how are we working smarter? We're cross-training. We're looking more in the future at projects, being more strategic and more collaborative. Instead of holding that information about, hey, this is coming, how can we share that information and say, hey, we need help with this. We need to be, again, more efficient. We need to share knowledge and be more cross-functional so we can use those precious resources in the most efficient way.
So I know you mentioned the 30 plus years of experience you have. I don't know if I believe that, by the way. I don't know if I believe that, but You have been in Florida, Miami-Dade College, California, Orange County, close to me, and now you're back in Texas, a couple, right? So Houston at the airport, and then now in Austin. What kind of themes or trends have you noticed during your time to help navigate today?
So with all of those times, you see the economic increase, right? And with that, everybody's, we have all this money and let's invest and do shiny new objects, right? And so you ride that as much as you can, and then all of a sudden it potentially stops, right? And so you have to, with that experience, you need to make sure teams are aware of this, right? Hey, this gravy train will run out. And with that pressure, when you're in the upswing, it's a lot of work, right? And then back on the downstream, it's still a bunch of work. And so that is how we've really been successful over the years in the teams that we've built together and been able to be successful both on the upswing and on the downswing. Again, back to being very transparent and ensuring there's accountability. So that big piece of accountability is very important, because with that upswing, I think there was a lot of opportunity for people not to perform as well as they normally did in the past. And now it's so important that people are performing at the level that they should be, and that's up to leadership to make sure that people are accountable and performing and focusing on the mission and delivering the products that we are supposed to deliver within the customer service levels that people are expecting of us.
Yeah, no, I love that. Last year, you came on as a guest to my private community, the Collaboratory, and you told us that you'd been at TxDOT for over 5 years, arriving at the situation where you had reorg, COVID, ransomware attack. Yeah. How do you prioritize those during those challenging early days, and what kind of leadership principles have helped you navigate that?
I think you prioritize based on what aligns most with the mission of the organization, what resonates the most with the customer service side, as Kerrica was talking about. For me, it is really looking at where the biggest bang for the buck is, which is what are the priorities that need to be fixed that actually has the biggest benefit to the organization from a mission perspective and a customer delivery perspective. And so I think that is what we do. From overall leadership, is I really believe in aligning my leadership with hiring the right people who actually understand the mission, not only of me, but of the organization. And so I think leadership is very much creating a culture that is everybody is moving in the same direction. You may disagree, you voice your disagreement, but once we make a decision, everybody's moving in that same direction. We support the agency and we align to the strategic mission of that organization. And then we basically all focus on serving the public, but in a good team collaborative way. And I think that's why TxDOT has become such a premier IT shop. And I say that because we're being very progressive in the things that we're doing. We're driving a lot of results. We have made a huge progression when it comes to AI. And we're focusing on AI that really can benefit and really automate the mission of TxDOT and not necessarily the technology, right? Because Tanya says, I think we've all been in this business a long time, and the nice shiny toys are great during a time when we have a lot of money at our disposal. But right now, I think everybody is seeing that crunch where you've got to focus on the right projects that really can deliver the right results. And so by doing that, really aiming and focusing the team on making sure that you're all clear on what are we trying to accomplish, what are we aligning on from a mission critical perspective, and then focusing on the projects and ensuring delivery is done on those projects, I think is how we've been able to be successful and move forward.
And I imagine you have a pretty tight relationship above you, communicating, these are the goals, this is the mission, and that seems like that's just trickled down throughout the organization.
Yeah, I will say I'm very blessed. I was hired by a previous executive director, and I thought once he left that I was going to be moved down. But the relationships that I have built at the executive level, I've been able to be highly engaged. They left me at the executive table, even with the change in administration. I get to have a voice, and if it's IT, if it's AI, if it's policy around technology, I drive and influence the decisions and the policies for TxDOT, which is we're statewide. And I just feel heard. And so I would say the relationship building and the trust and respect I get at the executive level really helps to make TxDOT a wonderful place to be.
I love that. One of the unique relationships I would say in Texas that I have is with Courtney, who's now the executive director at TDLR, and then John Fowler, the CIO. By the way, John texted me. He couldn't make it, but he did something about he owes you $5. something. Yeah, see, I didn't even know. I'm like, what?
He and I have been very good friends for a long time.
He was like, just say that on the podcast, please. I was like, okay, I got you, John.
Now it's documented.
That's documented. Buy me lunch. Just don't give me 5. Just buy me lunch.
$5 is worth nothing now, John. Yeah. And what I love is like both like the leadership that Courtney has and John, it's just such a great dynamic that you can really see, oh, now the team can rally behind that. The executive director cares about technology. As Courtney said, I think all roads lead to technology. See, I gave you credit, Courtney. And so I just love that dynamic, and it's fun that you've known John for a while. So Stephanie, you've worked with agencies all around the country. I was curious, what leadership approaches have you seen across the portfolio nationwide or even globally that you find are really successful in public sector?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely, I think what all of these ladies have said about everybody understanding the mission and the mission being aligned. And whenever you do have the business users aligned with the technology and everybody understands we're trying to provide licenses or we're trying to provide healthcare or solve homelessness, everybody understands that mission working together. That's very successful. Whenever you're working in silos, not as successful, of course. The other thing I think that I've seen be really powerful is whenever there's cross-functional teams and you're bringing in different people to learn different skills, be able to fill in for each other when you do hit those down times is another really big thing that I think is there. And then I think Tanya touched on this, just being courageously honest, right? Sometimes there are problems. Like, let's not ignore them. Let's talk about it and address it and share it as a team. I think that really helps build trust.
Yeah, I really like that. We talk about this on the podcast a lot about teamwork and collaboration. And I think sometimes I talk to folks and they get numb about those topics, but I don't think folks quite understand how important it is. I coach high school basketball, the JV team in particular, and every year you lose your best players to varsity. It's just a natural, so every year you get new kids, and every year without the relationship, you just start out and I don't know what it is. We're just constantly losing. Just people are not on the same page, turnovers, you name it. And then you start building some relationships. So for us, it would be the van ride. I know no one's going in the van with me, but van rides, you go to away games, right? Go to Chick-fil-A, whatever, you eat with the kids. That's when you start to build those relationships. The players, the kids, they start to trust each other. Then you can start to turn it around. And this is, I'm coming up on year 7 of doing this. And it's remarkable how similar those lessons are to business, to public sector, to organizations, to agencies. If you don't have the buy-in, if you can't have a list of issues that you can honestly talk about. Every business has issues. Every single business has issues. It's okay. Let's just document it. And then let's figure out what do we have to do to overcome these issues. And let's just have that honest conversation. No one's screaming at each other. Let's be an adult. Let's just go down the list. And then let's prioritize the list, right? Like, here's what we have going on. Super important. I know we talk about a lot on the podcast. I think it gets not appreciated enough, but when you're in the leadership chair, I know it's so important because you can't get the buy-in. It's gonna be a tough ride. So I want to transition to process orchestration and automation. We hinted a little bit on this, but you had previously shared how you had implemented a product using video cameras and data integration to identify roadside issues, which helped reduce secondary crashes by 29%. Love that. Walk us through how you're leveraging predictive analytics and AI and process automation to improve both traffic safety and congestion management.
We're heavily investing in AI. One of the things that we said was that we want to implement innovation and progress in a secure way that we protect the data as well. Like I said earlier, the alignment with the mission of the organization, which is building roads and easing congestion in order to facilitate safety, that is key to what TxDOT does. And so there's a lot of progress that's on the traffic side that actually leverages AI and actually the third-party data in order to help with getting the response times much quicker. And we're right now right in the midst. We've done a lot of pilots. There's a lot of different things that we're doing right now that looks at automating and taking the data and really doing the analytics to really look at pattern behavior so that we can quickly predict what is on the roads. Like you see in your cars, you'll use Google Maps or something. They'll say there's a car stalled on the road in a mile, right? And is it still there? And so all that information we can basically consume into some type of analytics program from a traffic perspective. And so we've done that. We've implemented one that we've done a pilot, huge results in the city of Austin actually, or the Austin district has done this, where basically it takes data from third responders and from like the car information and stuff like that. It sucks it into an AI tool. And then basically that AI can tell us where is a person stranded on the roads, because most of the time secondary crashes is caused by someone who's instantly just parked on the side of the road trying to basically change a tire, or basically has a stalled vehicle, and then people are not watching, and then they hit them, and then that creates that secondary crash. And so we've been able to be instrumental in viewing that information, getting third responders out to those individuals much quicker so that they can remove them off the roads, especially right now. There's so much construction going on all across the state, and we're looking at right now implementing that technology across the state so that everybody can basically leverage the benefits. And we're going to continue to do that. We're also going to be doing it with video cam and looking at pretty much heat maps in order to share information about where do we see humans, especially in crossings that they should not be in, and then basically trying to get them removed quickly so that they don't end up killing themselves, especially in a really high traffic area.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Love how practical the work is. Like, you can really see the tangible results. It's just great. Stephanie, we're seeing the shift from isolated automation to a more integrated ecosystem. I think everyone has a platform approach now. What are you seeing across Appian's portfolio of winning public sector customers?
Yeah, I think one of the things that they do is they don't look at each individual application. They are looking at, okay, how is this orchestrated across all the services that this person or this organization may need to receive? So being able to, instead of building discrete things, orchestrate across that. One of the places we really see that is around coordinated care of people. So somebody who might need housing assistance probably also needs food assistance, probably also needs job assistance. So being able to not work in silos and instead orchestrate across that is proven to be really effective and also less expensive for people because you can build components.
Yeah, I love that. So Tanya, I like how you said this. You're working to deliver an Uber-like experience in public transit. I like that. How are you creating that process for a more seamless, real-time service delivery for transit users?
A few of our products that we just have transitioned to is that concept of that digital journey. And Uber disrupted the transportation industry by disrupting taxis. And now this new generation and this current generation doesn't really remember life before Uber. And they don't remember what the taxi situation was. And so now, when you're using public transportation, there's an expectation we're using tools and that you can do your trip planning route from point A to point B. And it's going to route you the best way. And that's where we've focused on and we've been successful on integrating. And that means that we've incorporated our bike share program to our paratransit and our pickup program, to our bus, to our commuter rail. So I can put my trip planner in and take our bikes to our buses, to our rail, and get to where I want to go when I want it to go there. And so how do we get that user experience and keep it? It's a combination of the collaboration with our operations and our business partners. So that's what we're really trying to do. We're really trying to disrupt the transportation world and maybe compete with Uber because that is where the competition is. And I do believe that there's an opportunity here because if we haven't noticed, Uber and Lyft used to be very reasonable to go from the airport, and it's not. And it's no longer reasonable. It was used to be able to see that car, and it was within a 5-year car. And now I think that it's changed where it's not a guarantee that your Uber car isn't going to smell like that. We all know what we're talking about, that air freshener, right? That mint-green air freshener. So why wouldn't we take our public transportation? And especially if we knew from our app that we have when we can take it and our expectation of when we'll arrive where we are, and cost $1.75. So that's where we're really trying to disrupt, and I think we're doing a good job of it.
I love that. This is more Tesla, less Elon, but I read, so a little nerdy, but I remember reading Tesla's annual report. There's a very interesting stat that caught my eye. Talked about the car and like transportation utilization rates. Because a lot of cars just sit for most of the time. So what does it look like to reimagine the city? I think we're not there quite yet, but with autonomous vehicles, if you've ever been in a Waymo, I took one to San Francisco and it was amazing. And it smelled great, not like a new. And it's super new, the Jaguar, and the technology was incredible. Homeless guy fell over in front of the car and the car just stopped. and I was with a few folks. I don't know if Michelle Geddes, she's the CIO for the San Francisco Emergency Management, and a few other CIOs, all women. And we're all looking, is this guy alive? Gets right up. Jet, Waymo just slowly moves along. I'm like, that is impressive. Kerrica, so your agency overlaps a lot of what's going on at the city of Austin. How are you creating a process automation that creates a more seamless citizen experience across Austin?
When it comes to things that are going on in the city of Austin and how it impacts our region, I think one of the most impactful things is where we take technology and communications and public safety in our CTEC Center and have our partners with us. We have TxDOT, we have CapMetro, we have our wireless communication network, and they're partners there. Really, when it comes to public safety, transportation is a critical part of that. And so having those partners as part of our overall mission in Austin and the region is really important. We need to know what's happening on our roadways. We need to know how traffic needs to be diverted, whether it's on the highway or on the interior roads. We need CapMetro to understand how we're moving people around our city. So those partnerships are absolutely critical when it comes to emergency response in the city of Austin and those that are surrounding us.
And you're probably one of the rare CIOs in the city that has all of the state agencies. It just doesn't really happen.
So, Austin is special. We have the honor of being the state capital. And so we do have a lot of communication with the state departments and agencies that are around us. And that collaboration is important. The state, they're part of our community. And then we're also very focused on what we need to do in Austin in delivering services to our community.
Our city is really blessed to have Kerrica as our CIO.
Oh,
Yeah, we are.
Tell us more.
We are. I don't think people underestimate how important technology is for the citizens that you serve. And it's so important to have somebody in that role at such a critical role in the city of Austin that's making sure that she's delivering services and she has those partnerships. And when you talked about partnership buy-in, it's very difficult to get these buy-in. And from a city CIO perspective, she's got to work with people like right? People like me at CapMetro, and the PD departments. So it is such a critical role, and with leadership and know-how and skill set that goes with that. And then she has to lead this whole huge department and all these
different care about. People have different care about
and pressure to go these different ways. And Kerrica does an amazing job.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, it's an honor and a privilege, right? Working not only for our city, but for betterment around our region. That is just so important. We're only as strong as the weakest link. And so when we work together as one city, as one region, that's just critically important for the people.
So you said that, so I'm gonna jump a little bit because this dovetails perfectly. Weakest link. Okay, so have you read The Goal? I don't know if I mentioned this. It's a great book. So there's this story about the scout leader who discovers the whole hiking group can only move as fast as the slowest kid. When they put the slowest scout in front and redistribute his backpack, suddenly the whole group moves faster. As someone who's risen through every level, basically, in City of Austin IT, how have you applied similar thinking to the organization's bottlenecks?
So shared purpose, right? Whenever you can, you want to focus on shared purpose. You think you want to believe, and I do believe, people are reasonable and rational, and they want to do the right thing. So I go in with that mindset, number one. And so how can we work together to get to that shared purpose, that shared mission, this thing that we need to do and deliver for our citizens or for our internal business partners? And it can be difficult, right? Everyone has very different perspectives. We have partners that want to go very fast and they want to be agile and go very fast. And we have others that are more risk adverse and want to take things much more slowly. So just brokering those conversations of figuring out where's the right place for us to be as a organization in terms of technology so we can provide service and value that's right for our organization. That's a continual discussion. Luckily, the city has just gone through a strategic plan effort and there's a technology goal, but there are many other goals. Every one of those goals has technology embedded in those goals. And so I know that we have to bring the entirety of the city up and forward so that we can meet the strategic goals and objectives that we've set for our organization. Technology is in everything we do, whether you are an electric crew or you're working at a parks department or you're in a library or you're rolling the police car down the street, and really having those conversations about what we need, what are the critical things that we need as an organization so we all have that basic data literacy, AI literacy, technology literacy that we need in order to do our job well. It's critical right now.
Just broad stroke, quick follow-up. You mentioned the strategic plan. I just read this in the Wall Street Journal the other day. The CIO for J&J, they had started with, I think it was like 900 pilots. They've now slimmed down to a few. What are some of the important priorities you have for the city of Austin when it comes to AI?
In terms of AI, so we're trying things. We have a defined use cases. So we have an emerging technology board with a subgroup focused on AI. Anything anyone wants to do, we want to understand it, we want to log it, we want to follow it and make sure that it's following the ethical practices, security practices, operational concerns that we have. We need to understand how AI is not going to be only impact how it's going to impact the job and how it's going to provide that capability that we're looking for. Lots of use cases, lots of great things going on in public health data in AI. There are a lot of great things going on in licensing and permitting. We have some very specific things in public safety that have been piloted, but everything is really in that pilot phase because we want to make sure that we're aligned with federal, state, and city policy on AI and that we have that alignment, and that we're also focused on AI impact on climate, that we're focused on AI's impact on our workforce, because we want AI to be that helper to bring everyone up, not any sort of displacement. That's not how it's the force multiplier that we're looking for so that people have that assistance to do their job more efficiently.
I love that augmented AI. Has the city of Austin thought about an AI coordinator position or role or anything like that?
So right now we have, like I said, this emerging technology board. In my digital services team, they have a focus on AI. And as we're early next year, we'll roll out a new citywide website with a virtual assistant. So we have people with focus on those AI tools. Maybe not the name, but they have the function.
Love that. Stephanie, in the goal, the book talks about identifying the constraints that limit system performance. From your perspective, working with agencies across the nation, what are some of the most common constraints in government process improvement, and how are successful organizations measuring that process to remove the bottlenecks?
I think one of the big things is not really technology. It's more that there are existing policies and processes that are in place. So you'll get an RFP and it's probably a copy paste of an RFP from a few years before. And it has things like waterfall. It has things like we're going to have the final release at the very end. And so it doesn't really lend itself to some of the more agile, component-driven sort of development. So really looking at policies and processes and figuring out, okay, what can we be doing to help ourselves do things in a more innovative, faster way. And then the other thing is really taking a look continuously, right? Some people will come in and look at the process, they'll do a big assessment, and then they're like, okay, we're good. And they don't come back to it. So continually monitoring and looking at and understanding at a technology level and at a citizen level, where are people hanging up? Is there something that every time I get to this point, it breaks? And if so, let's examine that, let's fix that, and continuously monitor that for continuous improvement versus look at it once a year and go, okay, we're good.
Something I've done in my own business is every week I write a weekly reflection that I send a few folks, and I've been saving those as PDFs and uploading them to a project in Claude. And now I've got several in there now to the point where now I'm asking like, what are the bottlenecks? What are the issues? What am I not seeing? What's a different perspective? How might this? And then even just taking groups of segments of podcast data, like higher education. When I did EduCost, okay, I've got 10 transcripts I've uploaded here, and I'm just going across like themes, I'm pulling stuff. It's such a fascinating time right now to figure out where are issues, how can you solve them, how can you look at it differently? What a time to be alive, what a time. So Tanya, in a separate book that actually a CIO gave to me, the Phoenix Project, the main character has to balance supporting the legacy systems while innovating for the future. That's a nice way to put it, because in the book it's like, hey, you've got X number of days or you're getting fired. It's basically what it is. How has your nationwide experience helped shape your approach to balancing critical operations while also looking towards innovation at CapMetro?
So legacy systems are there for a reason, right? Especially in the government sector, we deal with a lot of data, and legacy systems tend to be the niche systems that only a few vendors have built over the processes. And so at every agencies that I've encountered, there is always that constraint of a legacy system. But there's always a purpose for that legacy systems, even in aviation. Currently today, a lot of our airlines are still, your back end is still a legacy system. But the wrappers and the apps around that legacy systems are your next generation. And so that's where I've approached it throughout my career of, hey, let's peel back that functionality around this legacy system. So the engine might still need to, at CapMetro, we have probably one legacy system that we're now modernizing just this year in our capital project. But it has been peeled back so much so that there's just one function that legacy system is doing. And so now we're really able to innovate beyond where we were for that function. And I know I'm mixing a lot of the stuff together, but it's a good thing because we've got a lot of efficiency and cost effectiveness of this legacy system, but we peeled back the functionality and it's not dependent anymore off this one system. So how have I been innovative? We make sure that the people who have that knowledge and that business transaction knowledge and process knowledge continues to work and partner across our agencies. And we're constantly going out and saying, how can we build a better mousetrap on top of this system that we're constrained with? And we used to have a lab, and all it had, not all it had, but what it had in was our hardware systems. And so now we incorporated the word innovation in front of this lab. And so it includes everything, not just the hardware, but it also includes your software as a service. And I get a lot of pushback like, I don't need to come into the lab for that. And we say, yes, we do. We bring the team together in this new lab and do a lot of cycling over these proof of concepts, not just pilots, but we actually pay for these proof of concepts to happen. And it's not just one team that does it, but we encourage and we make the whole organization contribute to this innovation in this lab. And we purchase it, so it's always there. So you can always say, and remember, because sometimes memories are very short, right? And they point to a new shiny tool, and we'll still have that proof of concept still running in the innovation lab. So that's how we balance it, and that's how we celebrate our wins through this. And we then have been very cost effective, and it's saved us so much money. Because if you test it in a collaborative fashion and in this lab, we save so much money because in the traditional, as was just saying about how governments can do this very extensive RFP process, and it's very expensive, and a wrong decision can set you back for 5 years and literally tens of millions of dollars.
Yeah, that's a very painful process.
It's a very painful process.
Probably cost some jobs in addition to some money.
Exactly.
Yeah. Next time I'm in Austin, I love to visit the innovation lab. I love tinkering, playing with stuff. I'm very curious, like constantly. Grew up loving Legos. This is like how I view everything, right? I'm like, oh, we should play with this.
And that's what it's like.
Yeah.
It really is.
I would have a lot of fun. So let's wrap up with you. You mentioned before that TxDOT has become one of the most liked agencies in Texas. And actually, I know a lot of CIOs in Texas more than other states. And I would say the level of respect that they have for you, for the work you're doing is impressive. What I have heard from both sides is just how amazing you are. And I think it's a
Appreciate it.
testament.
It's so true.
Testament.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
I love these ladies.
Yeah, it's absolutely true.
yeah. And so just praising you just for the work that you're doing and the impact you're having. And so in the Phoenix project, there's this idea that IT should be visible to stakeholders and demonstrate value. I think you've done a great job of this. How are you making your agency's contributions visible to leadership in ways that go beyond technical metrics or business metrics? I think like the video that you've recorded, like fun ways where you're showing, hey, we're actually making impact.
It's really being able to communicate in layman's terms. I think technology used to be the cool, sexy thing, and everybody was like, woo, let's do it. It's expensive. I think we've heard that. It's expensive. There's sometimes a lot of expensive failures that are a huge risk. And so what we do is we really partner with the business to really seek to understand what are the high value things that we can test out? What are the ways we can test it out? We believe in a lot of POCs and a lot of pilots, but then what we do is we allow the business to actually speak on behalf of IT and the technology. Does that make sense? And so I don't need to be in front. Basically, my thing is if you have basically the customers going to the executive director, the commission, and saying, oh my gosh, we were able to do this, and ITD, Information Technology Division, was a partner in helping us drive that and being able to communicate it. And that's the one thing, no matter how good you are, you cannot communicate sometimes the value add on the business side like the customers, right? Because they are in the operations. They understand the trials and tribulations, but if you can add the technology in their voice and they actually advocate, speak for you, that is basically the cream on the top. And so that's what we've done and then the other thing is looking at ways to socialize the accomplishments. I think that's the other thing we don't do, especially women. We don't really talk about the accomplishments that we do. We basically go to the next steps and we don't stop to say, okay, let's really talk about our accomplishments. And so anytime I can actually speak of not only just my success, but my team's success and what we've delivered through the social media, through videos that actually resonate with our agency, and then building our partnerships, right? Because I will tell you, I believe in the partnerships. I don't consider people as brands, it's really the friendships. Because really when you're in a crisis or you need help, it's really relying on whether it's a vendor, whether it's peers that you love and respect. I think that is how we drive success and also the information. And it's not so much the trying to drive it in order to make a brand for yourself. It is really driving it because you really care, you're passionate, and you want your team and the people that you work with to know I need help, and also you are part of my accomplishment.
That's a really great ending. This is the start of year 4 that I've been running my business. So I've now had some folks who have been CIOs and left to go to industry, and the ones that have struggled the most, I've often said, is you didn't build relationships with people, and honestly, you might have had a little bit of an ego, but now it's tough when you leave, and so building those genuine relationships, so important. Because whether it's in a crisis or there's a ransomware attack, you're not trying to build a relationship. Someone hits you. You're picking up the phone and you're like, you need resources, right?
It's a special ecosystem. Nobody stays in public sector because it's glamorous.
No, and we're not going to be rich from it. Let me put it that way.
My financial services counterparts get to go take their clients to drive Ferraris. I get to hang out with these wonderful women. I have the better job, in my opinion.
Yay.
Ferrari's overrated. So with that, thank you for coming on the Public Sector Show by Tech Tables. Appreciate you all.
Thank you. Appreciate you, Joe.
Thanks for bringing the 4 of us together.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Joe Tossi from TechTables.com, and you're listening to the Public Sector Show by Tech Tables. This podcast features human-centric stories from public sector CIOs, CISOs, and technology leaders across federal, state, city, county, and higher education. You'll gain valuable insights into current issues and challenges faced by top leaders. Through interviews, speaking engagements, live podcast tour events, we offer you a behind-the-mic look at the opportunities top leaders are seeing today. And to make sure you never miss an episode, head over to Spotify and Apple Podcasts and hit that follow button and leave a quick rating. Just tap the number of stars that you think this show deserves.